So now what we're going to work on is just our rundown or our approach to the stop, okay? Remember, a stop is an extension of the rundown. If they're running down really well, they're straight, they're correct, they're building speed, they're not getting too fast, they're not getting too slow, the chances of executing a good stop at the end of that rundown are high. But if your horse is leaning left or right, your horse is building speed too quickly, your horse is pulling on your hands and fighting the bit, the stop's not going to be very good. I can just promise you that right now. So in this exercise, what I want to do is practice running him in two different ways. I've got to practice running him on a loose rein to where I'm not kind of helping him, but he'll run in a straight line on a loose rein. And I'm not talking about loose like, you know, the reins are dragging around his knees like they are now, okay? But I'm not really making contact with his mouth. And then he also needs to learn to run bridled up and collected. Okay, not that I need him to run real deep and bridled when I show him, but again, it's a suppling exercise. It's making sure that they will give to you. You know, you saw when he threw his head up over there. Anytime a horse doesn't get collected, the first place you see it is they flip their head and neck up. That was a perfect example when I stopped him over there. He threw his head up in the air because he wasn't round through his body. He fought the bit. Okay, so they've got to be able to run on a loose rein and collect it up. So let's get started here. On both leads. Pick up the lope. So I'm going to slow him down around the ends and soften him up and then speed him up on the straightaway by squeezing with my legs. Okay, squeeze, squeeze. Now, he's thinking stop too much, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing that he just did then. But when I picked up, he immediately thought about sticking his ass in the ground, and I just want him to lope forward and get soft. So I might lope a circle or two, and then go do it again. Soften him up, turn him loose. Squeeze, make sure he's straight. Make sure he's getting off that outside rein. And I'll do it on diagonals, straight lines. Squeeze. So he's not going anywhere. Change leads. He's got to be able to do this on both leads. When I squeeze, he's got to increase the speed a little bit each time. Squeeze, go faster. Squeeze, he's leaning a little bit to my left. So when I get down here, I'm actually change leads just then, and I go to the right. I could feel him leaning to that left wall. Pick up the left lead again, squeeze. I want him perfectly straight. Squeeze my legs, squeeze again, squeeze again. I can feel him leaning left a little bit. Change leads. Better on his approach then. A little bit rough slowing down. But getting better. That was smoother. Came down better. So I'll let him jog here a little bit. So when I feel like he does something that I like pretty good, I'll release the pressure a little bit. Now I'm just going to let him walk a little bit. overall, I thought Titan did good on his rundowns. He leant a couple of times towards the wall, and that's typical, especially studs will kind of lean towards a certain area a little more than mares sometimes. But overall, he was fine. He's just got to keep practicing. You know, the rundown is something that you just kind of chip away at. You don't really see massive improvements in it every time you do it, but after you do it for a month or two, then you see big chunks of improvement, okay? But overall, he ran relaxed. Every time I squeeze, he's got to speed up. I squeeze, he speeds up. Anytime I squeeze and he doesn't go, I'm gonna kick on him or spank him at the end of the rein and say, come on, you need to respect that squeeze. When I gently squeeze you, you need to go to the next level and stay at that next level of speed. You want to speed up, coast, speed up, coast, speed up, coast. You don't want to just speed up and then have them take off. Okay, so it's speed up, wait, speed up, wait, speed up, wait, until eventually you reach the stop. But overall, I thought he did great. Some horses will have a tendency to lean more on a certain lead. So because I rest him a lot over where that black box is over there, I could actually feel him leaning towards that wall. So today when I get off him, I'm going to rest him more in the middle of the arena because that's where they get tied up along that fence. So typically I rest my horses over there to counterbalance that magnet that they're wanting to get back to their buddies on the other side of that fence. So I can feel him leaning that way a tad more than what I like. So that means I'm going to go ahead and rest and get off him in the middle more, or maybe do a little less resting over there to kind of move that magnet towards the center of the arena. Horses are always got that druther. They'd rather be somewhere else. So you got to walk with that and make sure they're always trying to be where you want them to be. Wherever they want to be is walk. Wherever you want to be, rest. Squeeze, squeeze, counter him, squeeze, he's not going anywhere, squeeze, sometimes I'll break him down to a trot. Trot 2 or 3 circles. It's always good to break them down to another gait and soften them up. And then I might just drop the reins and just let him walk a little bit. So he's doing not too bad going on that loose rein. He's leaning a little bit, but he's coming better now. So now I'm going to bridle him up a couple of times on the rundown and make sure he'll run, letting me capture his face. Again, it's not about making him keep his head down there, it's about making sure that when I squeeze with my legs, he'll compress his body. His face will come back to me, his butt will come underneath him. A horse cannot execute high-end performance maneuvers strung out, which means their head and neck is out and their nose is pointed out and their hind legs are spread out behind them. They've got to be rounded or like a ball. Like a bow. When you pull a bow back, a bow and arrow, as you pull that string back, that bow rounds more. When you release that arrow, it springs out of there. Righto, let's have another go. This time I want him to go bridled up. I'm going to hold my hands, squeeze. Release to him when he gets soft. So I'm not going to hold him there necessarily. I'm going to soften back to him when he softens to me. Squeeze, soften him, turn back, soften him, change leads. Squeeze, soften him, turn loose. Soften him, turn loose. Change leads. Speeding him up a little bit helps him change leads. It's the opposite of him being lazy. Whoa. So he's kind of out of air now, so I need to give him a rest, but I stopped him here in the middle of the arena, not on that wall, which is where he was kind of leaning to a little bit initially, okay? I kind of surprised him when I stopped him there, wasn't quite expecting it, so he had to kind of gather himself up. So again, obviously when you're going that fast, you can't do half an hour of it because they run out of air. It's like you're doing wind sprints. So, but I'll work on that 2 or 3 days a week, speeding them up and slowing them down. Titan's going right now about, you know, gear number 7. There's 10 gears and he's at gear number 7 right now. He's got to step up over the next 4 or 5 months to gear, you know, 8, 9, and 10 to where he can gallop and let me soften his face. He'll gallop straight, stop straight, etc. And he's not doing bad. Like I said, he's not completely trained yet. You know, he's 16 months into his training. You know, in a perfect world, it basically takes 24 months to get a horse trained, 2 years to train a reining horse. Okay, so we've still got another 8 more months theoretically up our sleeve before he's trained. I think, honestly, if I can get another 4 or 5 months on him, especially with being consistent riding 5 days a week, he's talented enough that he'll be trained at that point. Now, what do I mean by trained? He'll know his job. Then there's a whole nother level of training at that point, which is called getting them solid, getting them to where they'll perform really well for you away from home as well as what they do at home. You know, horses are notorious for doing outstanding things in the arena when there's no judges watching, but when you go to show them, they may not perform as good. You've got to what you call season them. Take them away, put them in small little shows and school them and make sure that they know that when they leave home, they've got to be on the money. They've got to have their game face on. So that takes seasoning. And that almost takes, to be honest with you, another year to get them as good away from home as what they are at home. Okay, that's just seasoning them. So taking them to a lot more horse shows, hauling them more, putting them on the trailer. You know, really horses start finding their real groove around 5, 6 years of age. When they've been in training for 3, 4 years at that point, that's when they start getting really, really solid at their job. But overall, I think Titan did really good today and made some good improvements, so I hope that helped you guys.